काफ़ी लंबे समय से मेरा इस किताब को पढ़ने का मन था, बुद्धा एंड हिज धम्मा। तो आइए इसको पढ़ना शुरू करते हैं। ये लिखी है डॉक्टर बी.आर. अम्बेडकर ने। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं, बुद्धा एंड हिज। और ये इसका प्रेफेस पढ़ते हैं, बिकॉज it's a very good book and many people recommend it. In response to the request by Buddhists here in India and elsewhere in the Buddhist countries of the world, and also by some philosophers and religious leaders in other countries, we are now bringing out a second edition of the Buddha and his Dhamma. We had first published Dr. Ambedkar's The Buddha and Dhamma in 1957, almost within a year of his nirvana. As this new and consistent commentary of the Dhamma by Dr. Ambedkar became almost the Bible of the Indian Buddhist. We later published a Hindi as well as Marathi version of the Dhamma. These publications served a very useful purpose to Indian Buddhists who treat this book as the New Testament for studying the Dhamma singly or in groups in their localities and for devoting some of their time every day to reflect on it. It is the way of Buddha without comparison that they find a substantial source of religious inspiration. After attaining omniscient enlightenment on Wednesday, the Vishakha Purnima day in 588 BC, the Buddha taught the Dhamma for 45 years by discourse on the truth of suffering, the truth of the origin of sufferings, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. The first conversion of Buddhism was started by blessed one with the five Parivrajaka's after the first discourse, Dhamma Pavattan Sutta, to them, and then with Yash and his 54 companions at Sarnath in Isipatana, who all became Arhat and ended after 45 years on the Vaishakha Purnima at Kausinara with the conversion of the Mala prince of Kushinara and Subadda, who all became Arhat. During the life of Buddha, Buddhism was confined only to the valley of Ganges. After the funeral, the relics of the Buddha were distributed among the kings of northern and central India, and stupas were built over them. In later centuries, the relics were to be of great importance in the expansion of Buddhism, which is spread to other parts of the India and Ceylon, Burma, and Southeast Asia, and elsewhere later on. During the period when the Buddha lived, there were three religious views prevalent in this country. They were first, different conditions of life after are due to good and evil actions done in their former existence, past karma. All the other creations and conditions of life are the products of will of God who never dies. There is no cause of coming into existence, and all the beings are of spontaneous existence. The view as a result of the changing concept of the word religion, were passing from one stage to another. डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर लिखते हैं कि बुद्धा के ड्यूरिंग द पीरियड व्हेन द बुद्धा लिव्ड, बुद्धा जब जिंदा थे तो उनके टाइम में भी तीन तरह की चीज़ें ज़्यादा प्रिवेल करती थी। पहला था कि आपने पिछले जन्म में कोई बुरे कर्म किए हैं, इस वजह से आपकी ये स्थिति है इस जन्म में। और सारे क्रिएशन जो है इस धरती पे सब कुछ भगवान ने बनाया जो कभी नहीं ख़त्म होता। और there is no cause of coming into existence and all the beings are of spontaneous existence. और अचानक सारे प्राणी जो है अपने आप अचानक पैदा होते हैं. The view as a result of changing concepts of the word religion were passing from one stage to another. The word religion, according to Dr. Ambedkar, is an unidentified word with no fixed meaning, and this is because religion has passed through many stages. The concept of each stage was called religion, religious thoughts. The concept at one stage has not had the same connotation which it had in the preceding stage. Its meaning is likely to differ in the succeeding stage. The concept of relation was never fixed, but it has varied from time to time. As primitive man could not explain most of the phenomena, such as lightning, rain, and flood, they veered any weird performance done to control these phenomena was called magic, and religion therefore came to be identified with magic. Then came the second stage in the revolution, evolution of religion, and in this stage, religion came to be identified with beliefs, rituals, ceremonies, prayers, and sacrifices. The Vedas are a collection of mantras which are uh, invo- invocations to Indra, Varuna, Agni, Soma, and others. They are prayers with rituals for help and gift for acceptance of the offerings. Some stages have also speculated philosophically on the origin of the world and on the being who created it with belief and faith. But the concept of belief, there exists some power which caused this phenomena which a primitive man did not know and could not understand. Magic therefore lost its place at this stage, and this power, which was originally malevolent, was felt to be benevolent, and this led to belief, rites, ceremonies, and sacrifices which became necessary both to venerate and benevolent power and also to propitiate an angry power. Later, that power was called a god or creator. Then came the third stage. This is God who created this world with also man. This was followed by the belief that man has a soul and soul is eternal and is answerable to God for man's action in the world. This, in short, was the evolution concept of religion at the time when Buddha was born. Thus was it that religion has come to be connoted belief in God, belief in soul, worship of God, curing of the erring soul, propitiating God by prayers, ceremonies, sacrifices, etc. The Vedas and the other scriptures therefore speculated on this philosophy, and those wrote them at the time were a historical product of their environment in which the above doctrine had flourished during their time. What Buddha called and Dhamma differed fundamentally from what was called religion at that time. Buddha's Dhamma was based on doctrine which are rationally possible. In no other religion are the values of knowledge and evil of ignorance so much insisted upon as they are in the Buddhism. His religion had the glory of having rightly judged the intrinsic greatness of man's capacity of work out his salvation without any extraneous aid, and of having perceived that far more of the world's misery is caused by stupidity and blind faith without any stress or on knowledge. If the worth of the truly great man consisted in his raising the worth of all mankind, who is better entitled to be called truly great than the blessed one? And the Buddha, instead of degrading him by placing another being over him, has exalted him to the highest pinnacle of wisdom and love. Dr. Ambedkar, while writing this Nikaya of Buddhism, the Buddha and his Dhamma, tested the discourse with the rigid test laid down by the Buddha to see whether the Buddhist canon is not adulterated with the Brahmanism. One has to test them and he tested them. He tested the tests are, as Buddha was nothing if not rational, if not logical, anything therefore which is rational or logical, other things being equal, may be taken to be the word of Buddha. The second test is that the Buddha never cared to enter into a discussion which was not profitable for men's welfare. Therefore, anything attributed to the Buddha which did not relate to men's welfare cannot be accepted to the word of the Buddha. There is also a third test. This is that the Buddha divided all matters into two classes, namely about which he was certain and about which he was not certain. On matters which fell into the first category, he had stated his views definitely and conclusively. On the matters of which fell into the second category, he has expressed his views that they are only tentative views. Bearing these tests in mind before deciding what the view of Buddha was, Dr. Ambedkar wrote his version, The Buddha and His Dhamma. How was the Dhamma preserved? Sri Putta and Mughalana and senior most disciple of the Buddha were no more at the time of Mahaparinirvana of the Buddha at Kushinara in 483 BC. The first council of Bhikkhu after the passing away of the Buddha had to be held at Raj Griha under the presidency of most senior monk Mahakashyap. The aim of this council was to preserve the teachings of the Buddha in their truth and the purity without change or modification, and also to achieve unity in the order. The first disadvantage was that there was no written script at the time, and the second reason was that there was a tendency among some monks to be lax towards the rule of the order. Therefore, the Vinaya as given out by Upali and the Dhamma as repeated by Ananda in the council were learned up by heart by the monk and thus preserved orally. The second council was held at Vaishali after the period of 100 years, again because of certain laxities which crept into the order. The Vajji monk had modified their conduct by adding 110 modifications to the Vinaya rules to the orthodox. They started carrying salt in a horn, taking a second meal in another village, and taking meals and buttermilk even in the evening, drinking unfermented palm wine, using rugs without fringes, accepting gold and silver, holding fortnightly congregations in the same parish, and taking decisions in the absence of some members. These were all contrary to the Vinaya. The first monk, Yasha, of the Orthodox order convened this council, which was presided over by the Subhakami. There were 700 monks gathered categorically, rejected the 10 indulgence practices by the Vajji clan monk. As a counter blast to this convention of the Orthodox order, the liberal Vajji clan monk later convened the Maha Sanghika Council consisted of 10,000 monks. This was therefore the first unfortunate split over the 10 indulgences without any doctrinal differences. Ultimately, this split led to the formation of other sects and uh, finally to Mahayana Buddhism. Yet a third council was convened by Mogaliputta under the patronage of great Buddhist Emperor Ashok. But it restricted itself to the Orthodox order and the Theravada sect. It is after this convention by Emperor Ashoka and Buddhism spread not only all over India but also to Ceylon, Burma, Southeast Asian countries. The Arhatha, son of Emperor Ashoka, Mahinda, was sent alone. Arhata, son of Emperor Ashoka, Mahinda was sent along with other monks to Ceylon for propagating Buddhism, and that was the landmark in the migration of Theravada outside India to Ceylon and Southeast Asia, which resulted in rich harvest later. There was yet a fourth council in Ceylon of the Theravada school, which by that time was also called Hinayana in the year 106 BC. By this time, there was already a script in Veda, and therefore this council committed the entire Pali canon and commentaries to writing on palm leaves for the first time. The Buddhist canon consists of Vinaya Pitaka, rule of monastic life, Sutta Pitaka, discourse of the Buddha, and Abhidhamma Pitaka, philosophical content of teaching. The Vinaya consists of a large number of rules and Sutta of Nikayas. The Abhidhamma is in seven uh, Prakranas. Early Buddhism prevailed from about 450 BC to 100 BC, but the Hinayana school started getting mixed with the liberal order, and the liberal order Mahayana started growing only after 100 BC on account of the fact that it is also started inventing anecdotes in the grab of mm, Purvanu Smriti to attract the masses. What is the history of Buddhism in India and how did it disappear? On account of new rational and sensitive tenets as propounded by the Buddha, which make man and not faith and belief as the center of the picture, a clash between Buddhism was inevitable. Buddhism was shaken to its foundation by Buddhism, and Buddhism thrived and these countries till the end of the first century AD, when Brahmanism again started recovering the poise. With the gradual decline of the Buddhism, there were persuasion launched by the Brahmin against Buddhists. Bhaskar Varma of Kamarupa had threatened to destroy Nalanda. There was also the murder of Ayurveda, the Aryadeva, the disciple of Nagarjuna, because Brahmins were defeated in debate on religion. Shashank expelled all the monks from Kushinagar and uprooted the Gaya Bodhi tree and burnt the rest of it and replaced it by Shiva. The final flicker of Buddhism was at Magadha under the Pala kings, and the death blow finally came with the Muslim conquest in 10th century. It is during the decline of Buddhism after Ashoka that northwest India fell before the Greek invaders, but the Greeks were intolerant, and Indo-Greek king Milanda even, even became a great Buddhist after his first debate with monk Nagasena. Then there was conquest by the Kushans of the Greek kingdoms, but they were also acquainted with Buddhism even before they entered into the couple of kings. Their kings had also embraced Buddhism. The Kushan king Kanishka, AD 78, was the first uh, unsympathetic towards Buddhism, but later became Buddhist. Though he also showed special favor to Brahmanism. It was he who has called a free council of the monk, which was recognized in India as fourth council, but with the Theravada school always ignored. The Mahayanists have, however, recognized the fourth council, although it was not organized by Maha Sangika but was done by the less orthodox branch of the school. The Shri was the Sarvastivada, with its many sects. It was because of the indulgent attitude of Kanishka towards Brahmanism that during this period many ideas of Brahmanism were mixed up with the Buddhism, especially in northern India. The main task of Kanishka Council was the fact that the language of the commentaries was Sanskrit and not traditional Pali of the Theravada school. It is there that Mahayana school of Buddhism came into being. With the fall of Kanishka dynasty by about the 3rd century AD, Buddhism lost a line of great patrons and the reign of imperial Guptas who came to power in Magadha in the 4th century AD and who controlled later the whole of the North India marked the triumph of Hindu culture and Hindu thoughts that accept the for occasional spurts. Buddhism in India started fading. The Chinese pilgrims Fahian traveled in India during these periods of 399 to 414 AD, found Buddhism prospering at many places like Kapilvastu and Gaya. Though on the whole it was on decline. That is also the account given by Hen Sang during his travel in 629 to 645 AD, and he too found quite a few monasteries desolate. The Huns by them came down like flood from north into Gandhara at the end of the 5th century, and Buddhist monasteries and scared edifices of northwest India were the special object of their fury. Monks, scholars, manuscripts, and buildings alike vanished in flame and blood, and even the universities of Takshila fell into silence without any hope of its revival. The sacred arms of Baul disappeared from Gandhara, Kabul, and passed to Persia. In the meanwhile, at about that time, Buddhism was also engaged in an unequal struggle with the Brahmanism in Bengal and West India and South India. The invasion of the Huns brought disaster and confusion for the Gupta Empire, and it split into a series of petty kingdoms with appearance of the Harsha in 605 AD. There was again a respite, and it was at the time that the Chinese pilgrim Hen Sang met Harsha and was greatly impressed by the emperor's patronage of Buddhism. But he too showed special favor to Brahmanism, which by that time had become intolerant of Buddhism, largely because of the school of Hindu thoughts. Uh, Puranic Hinduism or Neo Hinduism, which had by then involved itself, of which emphasized more on the caste system. Therefore, the earliest Puran like Agni, Vishnu, Vayu, Matsya mentioned the Buddha as one who deluded people to ruin, but the later Puranas like Garuda reconciled themselves with the fading Buddhism after 6th century and invoked the Buddha as an incarnation of Vishnu because by that time the new theory of incarnation was taking shape. The loss of royal patronage, the intolerance by Brahmanism, of the Puranic age of Buddhism, and the foreign attack on the India all contributed to decline of Buddhism. These continued till the 10th century with a small respite during to reign the Pala kings at Magadha, but in about year 1000, the Muslim conquerors of India dealt a final death blow to Buddhism in India. Uh, much over much over much what water has flowed down or the Ganga since 1000 AD. The ideal society in the Hinduism still consists of Chaturvarna, which cast a large measure of the people into the abyss of misery and inequality. The thesis that the Vedas are not only sacred but also infallible, the thesis that salvation, moksha of the soul, can be had only by the due performance of the Vedic sacrifice and observance of religion, rites and ceremonies and offerings of the gift to Brahmins existed pattern and Chaturvarnya and its rules to the all proposed which are not based on justice, liberty, equality, fraternity have to be re-examined and revised. The Varnashram Dharma has also become out of date, and many enlightened amongst all castes, including Brahmins, are in revolt against. But full Hindus who are in revolt are now of the view that they should outlaw the caste system. The caste system cannot be outlawed unless the Varnashram ideology is abolished. Dr. Ambedkar, after waiting long and after a sustained struggle, revolt against the system, the people who suffered most left the old fold and have now revived the Dhamma. But the intolerance of the Brahmanism is also raising its head. It is persecuting the helpless Buddhists in village and elsewhere. It is painful to see how much physical and social violence accompanied transgression of the caste system in this country. In recent years, while the relations between the caste Hindu and Buddhists have been generally peaceful, there are many instances of brutal violence because of belief and practice of untouchability. The case of burning of Harijan boy for a stealing vessel in Andhra Pradesh village and the caste Hindu woman not even willing to operate by Harijan surgeon are glaring instances. Since the institution of untouchability is popularly an integral part of Hinduism, since caste is a major tenet of Hindus, concerted measures should be taken to break down such barriers. Buddhism is an ideal for this purpose, but it should reach all the corners of the country. Untouchability, unfortunately, is not merely a social and economic problem, but also a religious problem. The other way, may be a major step in breakthrough down a caste barriers in the reforming Hinduism by rewriting and modifying the percepts of Hindu scriptures based on the ideology of inequality and injustice in accordance with the wishes of present generation. In independent India, caste system should go because Varnashram Dharma leaves no room either for development of enthusiasm or the man's individual spiritual and social progress. Enthusiasm is since qua non. Without enthusiasm and scope for opportunity, Dhamma to elevate those who are suppressed. It shall not only ennoble those who are disinherited and downtrodden, but also grant equality, justice, and liberty to all. Be on the basis of the tradition of the rational tenets as preached by the Buddha and must be as such that it should advances the welfare of all and not merely serve the interest of the self-styled Superman. This reformation of Hinduism will not be new because such movement has have taken uh, on earlier occasions. All Upanishads are agreed in the questioning the divine origin of the Vedas. There were in the past as many as 62 different schools of philosophy at one time, which were all opposed to the Brahmanic philosophy. Some of them are Akriya Vada, Niyati Vada, uh, Uchcheda Vada, and some of them are Akriyavada, Niyativada, Uchchedavada, Anayo, Anyonyavada, Vikshepavada, and Chaturvarna Shramvara Vada. So, if Hinduism is referred and the practice of Chaturvarnashram as well as the ideology based on belief and faith is rooted out and man is recognized as the center of everything, it will be a new school based on justice and equality. Humanism based on the belief that man is the measure of all things is of the very essence of Buddhism, and this should be reformed Brahmanism. But the suppressed and oppressed have no time to wait. They have waited and suffered for centuries. They have chosen Buddhism with its democratic and egalitarian ideal. With the conversion of Dr. Ambedkar and his legs of followers on the Vijayadashmi in 1956, Buddhism has been again revived in India and the Lord has returned to his native land. The name of Buddha, which was relegated to the background in this country, is again shining in each and every village, especially of Maharashtra, the Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, and elsewhere, because Dr. Ambedkar's followers are a force to be reckoned with these villages. We must also see that this great religion is revived in this country to bring about justice, equality, and socialism for all. Dr. Ambedkar, in his address in the day of conversion in October 1956, said, Hindu religion offers no opportunity for the untouchables to improve their lot, for it is based on inequality. On the other hand, Buddhism is based on equality and justice. I would like to see all Hindu, all Indian become Buddhists. Dr. Ambedkar, while paying tribute to Buddha's greatness in the epilogue of this book, asked all the Buddhists to take a vow to spread Dhamma to all. Let us therefore all make a solemn vow to comprehend the truth and to perceive the path led down by the Buddha perfectly. The fulfillment of the desire of Dr. Ambedkar to bring Buddhism in India with all its beauty, compassion, greatness, and gentleness to all his people would have been a challenging task to him. And Dr. Ambedkar, with his great ability and devotion, could have done it with. But he did not live even to begin these wonderful tasks, but passed away only 2 months after his conversion on 6 December 1956. All the Buddhists should take up this challenging task and fulfill the noble aspiration of Dr. Ambedkar and pray like Dr. Rabindranath Tagore. Bring to these countries once again the blessed name which made the land of thy birth sacred to all distant lands. 26 December 1973, Bombay. Justice R.R. Bhole, Chairman, the People's Education Society. Forward. It is with mixed feeling of joy and sorrow that I associate myself with this memorable but posthumous publications Society of the Buddha and his Dhamma of late Dr. Ambedkar, the founder chairman of the society. The book is not only Dr. Ambedkar's monumental work but also his memorial enshrining the noblest fruit of his massive intellect. This book has taken its shape after his much arduous study of research. This is his precious offering to Siddharth. The writing of this work was a veritable labor of love to Dr. Ambedkar, who came under the compelling influence of Siddharth, the apostle of reason. This book, therefore, can be fittingly remarked as the culmination of his labor on this earth. Dr. Ambedkar was brought up in an exemplary religious atmosphere, a follower of Kabir. His father was a meticulous observer of the prospects of his panth. He insisted that his children read something every day which elevate them. Dr. Ambedkar and his elder brother therefore had read aloudly every day some portion of Mahabharata and Ramayana before going to bed. Dr. Ambedkar and his elder brother therefore had to read aloud every day some portion of Mahabharata and Ramayana before going to bed. When asked why Mahabharata should be read, he was told by his a father that he believed that the exploitation of Drona and Karna would abuse him of an inferiority complex because of they had their humble origin to start with. Similarly, he was preached about Valmiki who wrote Ramayana. The daily reading of these books by young Ambedkar acquainted him richly with the Hindu mythology and imparted a religious sentiment in India. On his getting through the middle school final examination, this younger boy was introduced to Dada Keluskar, who was a friend of his father. Dada Keluskar once presented to him young man in his book, in own book, In the Life of Buddha. Much that he read in this book conflicted with what he had learned in the two Hindu mythology. He fortunately did not come to this book with an empty mind. He compared and contrasted at every stage this conflict. Indeed, this was origin of Ambedkar's interest in Buddhism and his Dhamma. Before writing his monumental work, Dr. Ambedkar uh, traversed numerous fields of thought and action. He digested various concepts of different religions of the world. The more he digested different concepts of the religion, the more was he convinced that the basic and the ideal foundation of our present society should be on the basis of Buddha's Dhamma. The first spark in respect of this work came to him in 1951 when Mahabodhi Society of Kolkata requested him to write an article for that journal, uh, Vaishakhi number Vaishakhi number. In that article, he laid down that the only religion acceptable to modern society would be Buddha's religion, and that if that is not done, then the society would perish. According to him, no other concept of religion appealed to the intellectual, scientific, and modern mind more than Dhamma or Buddha. If Buddhism was meeting with little response in the modern world, Ambedkar believed that this was due to the fact that its literature is too extensive and scattered, and it's therefore difficult to get a good idea that what the religion is. What was needed, therefore, according to him, was simple and a clear statement of the corpus of the fundamental Buddhist thought. He unfolded his Dhamma by telling the life of Siddhartha in a simple, clear, and dignified language. During his span of life, Dr. Ambedkar's writings covered a variety of topics. Something they were controversial, sometimes they were non-controversial. His writings invariably displayed his robust endeavor of underlining social justice, the good of his country, and the salvation of the lowest and the common man here. The present publication is unique. During the last portion of this precious career, he devoted his unspring labor and entire devotion to the writing of this book. The completion of this work was fulfillment. As such, it is memorable book which he regarded as his magnum opus. Our late chairman has intended that his work should be the first venture in publication by our People's Education Society. He further intended that his first venture in publication should be followed by other contributions by the eminent scholar and the teacher in various colleges and conducted by the society. We do hope that inspired by his great work, others will follow. Hello friends, आज हमारा डे 6 है और इसमें हमने जो बुक चूज़ की है वो है बुद्धा एंड धम्मा। ये किताब काफ़ी अच्छी किताब है और एक लाइफ टाइम में हमें पढ़ना चाहिए। तो मैं इसे फिर से पढ़ने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ और उम्मीद है आप सबको पसंद आएगी। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं किताब को। हमने अब तक इंट्रोडक्शन से पहले का सारा हिस्सा पढ़ लिया है और अब हम पढ़ते हैं इससे। Indications of a growth in the volume of interest in Buddhism are noticeable in some sections of Indian people. Along with it, there is naturally a growing demand for a clear and consistent statement of the life and teaching of the Buddha. Anyone who is not a Buddhist finds it extremely difficult to present the life and teachings of Buddha in a manner which would make it a consistent whole. Depending on the Nikaya, not only the presentation of a consistent story of the life of Buddha becomes a difficult thing, and a presentation of some part of his teachings become much more so. Indeed, it would not be an exaggeration to say that, or that of all the founders of the religions in the world, the presentation of the life and teachings of the founder of the Buddhism present a problem which is quite puzzling, if not baffling. It is not necessary that these problems should be solved and the path for the understanding of Buddhism be made clear. Is it not time that those who are Buddhist should take up these problems at least for general discussion and throw that light they can on these problems? With a view to raise a discussion on these problems, I propose to set them out there. Here, the first problem relate to the main event in life of Buddha, namely Parivraja. Why did the Buddha take Parivraja? The traditional answer is that he took Parivraja because he saw a dead person, a sick person, and an old person. This answer is absurd on the face of it. The Buddha took Parivraja at the age of 29. If he took Parivraja as a result of these three sites, is it he did not see these three sites earlier? These are common events occurring by hundreds, and the Buddha could not have failed to some across them earlier. It is impossible to accept the traditional explanation that this was the first time he saw them. The explanation is not plausible and does not appeal to reason. But if this is not the answer to the question, what is the real answer? The second problem is created by the four Aryan truths. Do they form part of original teachings of the Buddha? This formula cuts at the root of Buddhism. If life is sorrow, death is sorrow, and rebirth is sorrow, then there is an end of everything. Neither religion nor philosophy can help a man to achieve happiness in the world. If there is no escape from sorrow, then what can religion do? What can Buddha do to relieve man from such sorrow which is ever there in the birth itself? The four Aryan's truth are a great stumbling block in the ways of non-Buddhists accepting the gospel of Buddhism. For the four Aryan's truths deny hope to men. The four Aryan's truths make the gospel of the Buddha a gospel of permission, pessimism. Do they form a part of original gospel, or are they a later ac- accretions by the monks? The third problem relates to the doctrine of soul, of karma and rebirth. The Buddha denied the existence of the soul, but he is also said to have affirmed the doctrine of karma and rebirth. At once a question arises, if there is no soul, how can there be a karma? If there is no soul, how can there be rebirth? These are befuddling questions. In what sense did the Buddha use the word karma and rebirth? Did he use them in the same sense in which the Brahmin used them? If so, is there not a terrible contradiction between the denial of the soul and the affirmation of karma and rebirth? This contradiction needs to be resolved. The fourth problem relates to the bhikkhu. What was object of the Buddha in creating the bhikkhu? What was the object to create a perfect man? Or was his object to create a social servant, devoting his life to serve of the people and being their friends, guide and philosopher? This is a very real question. On it depends on the future of Buddhism. If the bhikkhu is only a perfect man, he is of no use to the propagations of Buddhism because though a perfect man, he is a selfish man. If, on the other hand, he is a social servant, he may prove to be the hope of Buddhism. The question must be decided not so much in the interest of doctrinal consistency, but in the interest of the future of Buddhism. If I may say so, the pages of journals of the Mahabodhi Society make, to me at any rate, dull reading. This is not because the material presented is not interesting and instructive. The dullness is due to the fact that it seems to fall upon a passive set of readers. After reading an article, one likes to know what the reader of the journal has to say about it, but the reader never gives out his reaction. This silence on the part of the reader is a great discouragement to the writer. I hope my question will excite the reader to come and make their problem to their solution. Now let's come to the prologue. So till page 19 we have read. Prologue. From time to time, men find themselves forced to reconsider current and inherited belief and ideas to gain some harmony between present and past experience and to reach a position which shall satisfy the demands of feeling and reflection, give confidence of facing the future. If at the present day, religion as a subject of the critical or scientific inquiry of both practical and theoretical significance has attracted increasing attention, this can be ascribed to the rapid progress of scientific knowledge and thought. B. The deeper intellectual interest in the subject. C. the widespread tendencies in all parts of the world to reform or reconstruct religion or even to replace it by body of thoughts more rational and scientific or less superstitious. And D, the effect of social, political, and international events of a sort which in the past have both influenced and been influenced by religion. Whenever the ethical or moral values of the activities or conditions is questioned, the value of religion is involved, and all deep stirring experiences invariably compel a reconsideration of the most fundamental ideas, whether they are explicitly religious or not. Ultimately, there arise problems of justice, human destiny, God, and the universe, and these in turn involve problems of the relation between religion and the other ideas, the validity of ordinary knowledge, and practicable conceptions of experience and reality. From Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, Volume 10, page 669. So now let's come to the index. What is there? If somebody asks you what is there in Buddha and his Dhamma, so we are going to read the index. Book 1, a Siddhartha Gautam, how a Bodhisatta became the Buddha. Part 1, from birth to Parivraja. Part 2, renunciation forever. Part 3, in search of new life. Part 4, enlightenment and the vision of a new way. Part 5, the Buddha and his predecessors. Part 6, the Buddha and his contemporaries. Part 7, comparison and contrast. Book 2, campaign of conversion. Part 1, Buddha and his Vishad Yoga. Part 3, the conversion of the Parivrajaka's. Part 3, conversion of the high and the holy. Part 4, call from whom. Part 5, campaign for conversion resumed. Part 6, comparison and conversion resumed. Part 7, conversion of the law and the lawly. Part 7, conversion of woman. Part 8, conversion of the fallen and the criminals. Part 3, what the Buddha taught. Part 1, his place in his Dhamma. Part 2, different views of Buddha's Dhamma. Part 3, what is Dhamma. Part 4, what is not Dhamma. Part 5, what is Sadhama. Part 4, Religion and Dhamma. Part 1, Religion and Dhamma. Part 2, how similarities in terminology conceal fundamental differences. Part 3, the Buddhist way of life. Part 4, his sermons. Part 5th is, book 5th is the Sangha. Part 1, book 5 is having 5 parts. So part 1 is the Sangha. Part 2, the Bhikkhu, the Buddha, conception of him. Part 3, the duties of the bhikkhu. Part 4, the bhikkhu and the laity. Part 5th, Vinaya for the laity. Book 6 is he and his contemporaries. Part 1, his benefactors. Part 2, his enemies. Part 3, critics of his doctrine. Part 4, friends and admirers. Book 7, the vendor's last journey. Part 1, the meeting of those near and dear. Part 2, living Vaishali. Part 3, his end. Book 8, the man who was Siddhartha Gautama. Part 1, his personality. Part 2, his humanity. Part 3, his likes and dislikes. Epilogue 1, tribute to the Buddha's greatness. 2, a vow to spread his Dhamma. 3, prayer for his return to his native land. So now we are coming to book 1. Siddhartha Gautama, how a Bodhisatta become the Buddha. Part 1, from birth to Parivraja. 1, his kula, his ancestry, his birth, visit by Asita, death of Mahamaya, childhood and education. 7 is early traits. 8 is marriage. 9 is father's plan to save his son. 10 is failure of woman to win, the prince. 11, the prime minister admonition to the prince. 12, the prince reply to the prime minister. 13, the initiations into the Sakya Sangh. 14, conflict with the Sangh. 15, offer of exile. 16, Parivraja, the way out. 17, parting words. 18, leaving his home. 19, the prince and the servant. 20, the return of Chana. 12, 21, the family in mourning. His kula. So now we are reading about his kula, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has given 12 points in all for about his kula. कुला मीन्स हिज एंसेस्ट्री, आई मीन उसके परिवार, वो उस उनका बुद्धा का बैकग्राउंड, किस कुल से थे वो. गोइंग बैक टू द 6th century BC, नॉर्दर्न इंडिया डिड नॉट फॉर्म अ single sovereign state. The country was divided into many states, some large, some small. Of these, some were monarchical and some non-monarchical. 3. The monarchical states were altogether 16 in number. They were known by the name of Ang, Magadha, Kasi, Koshala, Vrijji, Mala, Chedi, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchal, Matsya, Surasena, Asmaka, Avanti, Gandhara, and Kamboja. 4. The non-monarchical states were those of the Sakya of Kapilvastu, the Malas of Pava and Kushinara, the Lichavis of Vaishali, the Videhas of Mithila, the Koliyas of Ramagam, the Buli of Alakapa, the Kalinga of Resaputta, the Mauryas of Pipa Lavana, and the Bhagas with their capital on Sumara Hill. 5th is the monarchical states were known as Janapada and non-monarchical states as Sangha or Gana. 6. Not much is known about the nature of the polity of the Sakya of Kapilvastu, whether it was a republican or oligarchy. 7. This much, however, is definitely known, that there were many ruling families in the Republic of Sakya and that they rule in turns. 8. The head of the ruling family was known as Raja. 9. At the time of the birth of Siddhartha Gautama, it was the turn of the Buddha, Suddhodana to be the Raja. 10. The Sakya state was situated in the northeast corner of India. It was an independent state, but at a larger state of the king of Koshala had succeeded in establishing his paramountcy over it. 11. The result of this paramountcy was that the Sakya state could not exercise certain sovereign power without the sanctions of the king of Koshala. 12. Of the kingdom then in existence, Koshala was a powerful kingdom, so was the kingdom of Magadha. Pasanedi, king of Koshala, and Bimbisara, king of Magadha, were the contemporaries of Siddhartha Gautama. The capital of the Sakya was the city of. So now, right now, we have completed 45 minutes in all, and I'm stopping here in his ancestry. And my request to all of you is maintain consistency. Take any book and you have to read. From the beginning to end, every single word we need to read. Now you will also see that I'm also committing a lot of mistakes. And that's okay. That's a part of learning. Whosoever we are, but we commit mistake. This is a genuine thing. So don't feel bad. If you are not able to read properly, don't feel bad. The only thing we need to do is read, 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 read. And ultimately, it will be an acquired habit of your mind, and you will do it, perform it so efficiently as if you are master of this. Kindly subscribe my channel, Success Matrix. और आप चैनल को फॉलो करें, शेयर करें और इसको बार बार सुने. थैंक यू सो मच. जय हिंद.